Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the General Government Budget Committee for the House of Representatives. For those of you who are watching at home, the report outs for the Appropriations Committee didn't take place this morning as they were expected to. The chairman decided to take up some rats and cats bill regarding unemployment insurance. $400 million would outweigh my report out is still, I've lodged a complaint. Nonetheless, we're going to get started and first we'll look at the Board of Examiners and Fitting and Dispensing of Hearing Instruments budget. And for a brief rundown of that budget, we have analyst Saylor Sinclair. Is she? See her square. Oh, there you are. There you are. Very good. All right, take it away, Mr. Sinclair. Meet yourself first.
Hello, Mr. Chairperson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
There we go. Hello, my name is Saylor Sinclair, and I'm a legislative fellow at ks.gov, and I'll be providing the budget analysis for the Kansas Board of Examiners in Fitting and Dispensing of Hearing Instruments. The executive director, Zach Miller, unfortunately will not be here in person or virtually. He had some patients he had to attend to today. However, he wanted me to note that he is open to sharing and providing his email address to the committee if there are any questions that he could answer for you. Yes. Moving on. I was going to give a brief agency overview of the Board of Examiners in Fitting and Dispensing of Hearing Instruments.
I think that'd be very useful.
So on page 2, the very top gives a brief overview. The Kansas Board of Examiners in Fitting and Dispensing of Hearing Instruments regulates hearing aid dispensaries by determining the competency of new practitioners entering the field, ensuring licensures keep their equipment calibrated and meet continuing education requirements, and they also investigate complaints. The board consists of 3 licensed hearing aid dispensers and 2 public members who are appointed by the governor. The staff consists of 1 unclassified part-time employee who serves as the executive officer. Moving on, the first 7 pages of the budget analysis provides an overview of the agency budget. I can go into greater detail about these pages. If not, I would like to start on page 9 for FY 2021.
Sounds good to me.
So on page 9, FY 2021 is the current year. The agency requested $26,907, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. The overall estimate was unchanged from the amount approved by the 2020 legislature. There were some changes within the major categories of expenditures. There was a decrease of $194 in salary and wages. The decrease was due to less payments for fringe benefits and classified and unclassified temporary pay. There was an increase of $177 in contractual services. This was due to intergovernmental postage and rent. There was an increase of $17 in commodities. This was due to increased uses for sanitation and office supplies. On page 9, the governor recommends expenditures of $41,907, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund for FY 2021. This was an increase of $15,000 above the agency's revised estimate. The increase is due to the additional $15,000 to finance a contract for the development of interactive agency website. I can stand for questions.
Could you tell me a little bit about that website that we're talking about here?
Mr. Chairperson, I would need to get a little bit more information from the executive director, Zach Miller. He's been pretty busy this session with patients. So I have some detail as to us, but I want to double check with him as to what parameters is being set within that website to give a.
Right, what- and
Yep,
I
go,
think
continue.
my personal question would be, what is it we're trying to achieve with it? Why is this a good time for it? The things like that. Is it going to increase efficiencies down the road?
Yes, Mr. Chairperson. I'll double check with him. As again, he's had other patients he's tended to during this session.
None of us can
but yeah.
hear through WebEx. I get it,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, I'll double check with him
No,
and follow.
That was a joke, don't worry
Oh.
about it.
Mr. Chairperson, thank you for that chunk. No, yes, I'll definitely double check with him and follow up with you.
Excellent, thank you. Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Saylor, if you could also, because I was going to have the same questions about 22 and 23 because of the $5,000 each year there. I assume that's got to be a maintenance or an ongoing cost of some kind. Check at the same time on that. That would be great.
Yes, Mr. Chairperson Committee. I'll look into that. We've noted about this website. He was going to get back to me. So once I look into it further, I will relay that information to you as soon as possible.
Excellent, thank you. All right. and since that
Turning
seems-
to, oh,
Yeah, that
continue,
seems
Mr.
to be the only real moving part on that year's budget, so I think we can go on to 22.
Yes, Mr. Chairperson. Turning to page 10 is FY 2022. The agency requests $27,188, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. There were some slight adjustments across the major categories. In salary and wages, there was an increase of $8. This was due to increases of contributions to worker compensation and unemployment compensation. In contractual services, there was an increase of $315. The increase was due to phone, internet, and office and OTIS, Office of Information Technology Services, and computer programming fees. Next, there was a decrease on page 11 for $42 in commodities. This was due to a decrease in sanitary and office supplies. And on page 11, the governor recommended an expenditure of $32,188, all from the Hearing Board Fee Fund. The recommendation is an increase of $5,000. And again, this increase was for the finance of a contract for the maintenance of an interactive agency website. And I'll stand for questions again. I will note, though, I will look into that interactive agency website.
Very good. I'm looking for the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund balances. See how that's affecting. Here we go. I found it on page 16. Seems to certainly support it. Representative Wagner.
So my question, and again, I'm sorry that the head person is not here, but the agency did not request the website, the governor did. And so does the agency, and in their ongoing budget, they don't show it. So do they think it's overkill, or that it doesn't make sense, or they didn't seem to, jump into it for this? Do you know anything about that difference?
Representative Wagner, I cannot comment as to why the governor allocated this money for an interactive website. I can say that the Board of Hearing did not ask for the money. So other than that, you might have to ask or follow up with Zach Miller, the Executive Director of the Board of Hearing.
Okay. How do we do that? I mean, do we?
Can you go ahead and include that in the query as that you're asking, Mr. Miller? That,
Absolutely,
find
Mr.
out
Chair.
where this ask came from?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairperson.
I mean, I would also throw in, as a small business owner, to pay $15,000 for a website development and then have an ongoing $5,000 a year contract just sounds just like way over the top. I mean, and maybe that's one reason the agency's not excited, but that really sounds over the top. I mean,
Further questions? Yes, Representative French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. $5,000 a year, that's a 20% increase in the budget for this agency forever. So this is a major expenditure for this particular agency. So I think we need to know, what are the efficiencies that are going to be coming from this increased website? They already have a website. It's in here that 2019 they had a website already in place. So what is the efficiencies we're going to get from this very expensive new website for this agency? That's the big question.
It's perfectly valid, and that's already on the list that's being asked.
Thank you, Mr.
Good. Question.
Mr. Chairperson, I can detail just a little bit of what we have noted in our conversations with the executive director about this website. He did mention that this website's overarching goal would be to modernize its licensures process for the Board of Hearing. Other than that, I do not know what that entails. However, I can follow up and kind of consolidate what it all is, or may or may not be involved with that.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yep. Let's see. Going back to page, I think 12, FY 2023, the agency requested $27,370, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. This was an increase of $182. The major categories of expenditures were detailed. There was an increase of $2 in salary and wages. This was due to increases in salaries and wage fringe benefits. And there was an increase in contractual services for $155. The increase was due to increase in postage, facility printers, and reimbursement for vehicle miles. Continuing on page 13, there was an increase of $25 in commodities. This was due to increase in sanitation and office supplies. Again, on 13, the governor recommended $32,370, all from the Hearing Board Fee Fund for FY 2023. This was an increase of $5,000. This increase again was due to finance a contract for the maintenance of the agency website. I can stand for questions on that as well.
The question's already posed. I don't see any others. Representative French.
Found the reference on page 15. It says in FY 2019, the board decreased renewal fees by $25 because the agency website is now complete.
That's why we need to start a new one.
So, evidently they just got a new website in 2019. It's reduced the fees. That's the kind of thing we'd like to see. So why is the requirement? I hate to keep hitting this without anybody from the agency here, but we got to really figure out what this is all about, because the whole story is not here.
I agree with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do my homework on this one.
Yes, you did.
Back on page 2. Page 2, 2017, the legislature added a 0.5 FTE position, the executive officer's position, and it's in the budget through 2019, but it disappeared in 2020. What happened to that authorization?
That is a a good question. We have an executive director. We know that he actually exists. And I realize he's part-time, but wouldn't that show up as an FTE or a fraction thereof?
No, he does not get paid. That's why there is no FTE for this agency. He does this, in his own words, as something to give back to his profession.
But the authorization from the legislature still exists. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Chair, though, if it's not spent, though, doesn't it just go into the fee fund? So we can authorize all day long, but at the end of the day, if it's not spent, it just drops into the fee fund.
I was just wondering why it was dropped in 2020. I guess because the executive director decided he no longer wanted to pursue that as trying to account for his services, right?
What it sounds like. Zone Barnberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't quite sure, Mr. Sinclair, if you were going to go over page 16 or not, but I have a question, so I can hold off if you plan on going over pages 16, or I can ask it now.
Let's see. Yes, we can go over page 16. Absolutely.
Okay, and I'll just, the main question I'm going for, and maybe you're going to go over it, is I'm looking at the revenue for actual fiscal year 2020, and it's a little over 19,000, and then next thing you know, it jumps up to 47 in the estimate of 2021. Could you kind of explain and elaborate on that?
Yes. I might have to double check with the agency. I do know the governor recommendation between FY 2021 includes that $15,000 increase for agency websites. So that's where you're really seeing that huge difference in revenue and agency estimates in FY 20 to 2021. So without that 15,000, it's more around 30, if that helps clear things up.
I think that would be an expenditure, not the revenue. Here, I think Tori is the answer. If you go to page 5 and look at the number of license renewals, in fiscal year 2020, they only had 113 renewals. You know, in 2021, they're projecting 425. And of course, 2020, I guess, because of COVID, that it really dropped or something, because you compare to 2019. Well, no, actually, it seems like even number years, like in fiscal year 2018, they had 160 renewals, and it's 456, and 113, and 425. So if you take that times a $100 licensing fee, that gets you, I mean, the revenue makes somewhat sense as far as the change, because they have so many more renewals coming due in 21.
Maybe you can help out with that, analyst. Is that a 2-year license? Is that what would make the difference from year to year?
I'm unsure if the Board of Hearing and Fitters have that type of licensure, I guess, span of 2 years. I do know that other agencies do have that, and they do renewals, such as like Board of Mortuary Arts. However, I'm going to have to double check with the executive director what their timeframes of renewal rates are and how they actually set that out.
Right, and really couched in that is what's the difference, what's the reason for the discrepancy from year over year of the licensing? Representative Wagner.
Sorry to be asking so many questions about a small budget, but if the executive director does not draw a salary, then why do they have over $20,000 in salaries and wages? I mean, I presumed he was part-time, and that's a very part-time wage, but if it's not him, is there a secretary or something, or do you have any, who does that money go to?
Representative, I will have to double check with the executive director. Again, he's been very busy this session with patients. Again, I've tried to get into contact with him. However, with this, and I will be providing after this conclusion of the budget analysis, his email. I believe that there are some questions that I wanted to ask him. However, again, he's been unable to answer them for me as well. So that's all I can give at this particular moment. However, I can say, or I can follow up with him.
Very good. Continue.
If I can ask or present to the committee one more conundrum in this budget. I think Representative French alluded to this, but on page 2 on the 2017 legislature, it says the 2017 legislature also approved a one-time expenditure of $5,500, all from special revenue funds for the construction and establishment of an agency website. And so it's like, what is this new website? And I mean, it increasingly makes no sense at all that they would pay $15,000 and pay some ongoing $5,000 maintenance. I mean, unless this is like somebody's relative that does websites. I mean, that's just off the record.
There's no such thing as off the record when your mic is on. Representative French.
On that same page, I'm still trying to get used to some of the accounting verbiage that the state uses. What is a special revenue fund?
Asking the analyst.
That's for you.
Oh, for me.
I assume you know what that means. I don't.
Yes,
First off,
hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, continue. I will let you finish speaking.
Oh, no, it's just a revenue fund that's fee funded but for a specific purpose.
So is that a general government fee fund that is available for different things?
It is a fee fund, yes.
It's provided by different agencies, is that correct?
Alan, you want to help out here, put a finer point on it?
You're on the spot, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Not a problem at all. I'm more than willing to help out. So special revenue funds are 2000 series funds, okay, that derive their revenue stream from a specific fee that's being charged for a specific purpose. So they're not general funds, like I think you asked about general funds. They usually they're for a specific purpose. In this case, they charge a fee on these for the license examiner fee, and then that goes to run this. But if there's a specific question.
Question I have is, on page 3, they mentioned the hearing aid board fee fund. I assume that's where they get most of their money. Is that correct?
Yes, that's where 100% of their fees or funds
100%.
come from.
That's why I want to know what this special revenue funds, where does that come from? Evidently not this agency.
Let's we have it here. Okay, I think turning to page 15 would help visualize what the funds are coming from.
Trying to figure out if there's two separate funds from this agency, or it's a state fund that comes in when needed, or what?
So yeah, on page 15, there's a funding source chart that shows and details what funds they receive from and from where. So you can see in the first line, state general fund, they receive 0% of any sort of revenue, money, anything from the state general fund. So they are not funded by the state general fund. However, 100% is from the hearing aid board fee fund. There are no other funds that they take money from, make money from. It's all fee board or fee fund.
Well, that still doesn't answer my question. What are these special revenue funds on page 2?
So
It's not the same fund.
Analyst Deere, would you like to take a swing at this one?
I'll take one more swing, and hopefully I won't miss this time. So this is a special revenue fund. The hearing aid board fee fund is a special. all of the funds that derive their revenue from. So if you look at like page 2, when it talks about special revenue funds, the hearing aid board fee fund is just one example of a special. We'll talk about, today we're talking about the real estate appraisal board fee fund. That is distinguished all for a specific purpose. These funds.
Why would the legislature have to authorize those funds being spent if it's the agency's funds?
Take a retained signature control their ability to charge spending of those funds. There's actually limitations that are established via the appropriation.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to belabor this. I'm going to need a primer from somebody on how those things, why they differ and how they operate, because I don't understand. Thank you.
Chairman, there's not a whole lot of explanation here. I think that we need to wait till the executive director's here. I think that we should defer this until such time as he can be here before you have to report out appropriations, to get the answers to some of the questions that we have.
Analyst Saylor, do you think that the executive director would be available on Monday?
I'll have to call him and check. I can't say if he will or won't be available. I'll have to double check with him and follow up with you.
Or not sure we would have time tomorrow. Tomorrow or Monday, either one, if he's available for either one of those. I'd like to get some of these answers before I have to go defend some of the expenditures in front of full appropriations.
I completely understand, Chairman. I'll call him after this meeting concludes. Hopefully I'll have a better picture of if he's free, available, and I'll ask him some of these questions. Once I know, I'll follow up with you.
That sounds perfect. Representative Wolfmore.
Thank you. First of all, I want to make sure my raised hand feature is working because I was doing this and pushing the raised hand feature. Is it working?
I don't know. I saw your hand in the screen, and so that's what I went by.
Okay, that's okay. I tried to do it the right way. Mike, Representative Amix already expressed my views. We have a lot of unknowns about this budget, and I too don't want us to make mistakes at appropriations. When are we scheduled to do this at approps? Next Tuesday?
Tuesday, as I recall.
Okay, well, hopefully we can, if we can't get answers before then, maybe Troy will let us trade something out.
Exactly. That was my thought too. All right.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Certainly. And Representative Burrows, were you just waving to demonstrate, or did you also have a question?
No, thank you. Just to comment, this is a very small agency, and this gets back to the discussion at hand as to why we need to do these budgets, just to basically provide oversight. This is a fee-based agency. No SGF is in any of these monies. I might suggest that we ask if that $5,000 is not the OITS payment, that if they are the ones doing the oversight on the website. OITS has been billing the agencies, and this is the first year of the billing. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm just kind of going from our discussions yesterday with OITS. We might want to ask if that $5,000 for that website is OITS fee.
Valid. There was another expenditure for OITS, so I don't think it is, but I don't know that for sure. I think that's a valid question.
If they design the website and at the same time maintain it, and have to charge personnel to watch it because this agency is very small. I don't even want to call it an agency. It's just a very small budget. It's taken 10 years for them to even get an ending, a reserve built up. It's utilized very little bit of money in all the times I've worked on this budget, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Amix.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Burrows, you and I were here last year and along with Representative Marburger. Question to either one of you. The salary or the administrative fees for salaries, was there not a process of hiring people, if either one of you remember, to go out and carry the testing of all by other people?
Representative Amix, I don't recall that discussion. I know there's been many a question as to why we don't have, quote, a director there that's paid, because as I stated, it's a very small agency. I don't even want to call it an agency. It's a very small group of individuals that do that. They may want to utilize some of those dollars for going out and doing the testing, as you stated, remotely. But I don't recall that discussion without going through my notes from last year.
Mr.
Saylor,
Chairperson.
I think you want to weigh in on that?
Yes. So looking back into my few correspondences with Mr. Miller, he does note that and also I've confirmed this with other sources, he does get paid. However, he does not have capers. So in the view of the state, or how we associate FTEs, he is considered a temporary unclassified, and thus he doesn't count. However, he does get paid, but doesn't pay into capers or anything like that. So I just wanted to note upon that as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Right, so see what you can work out with Mr. Smith's schedule, and we'll look at either tomorrow or Monday would be ideal. Otherwise, we'll just try to fit it in and try to make appropriations understand.
Mr. Chairman, would it be the same time, correct?
Yes, yes.
I will do my best to follow up and get back to you.
Very good. Yeah, we're a budget committee. We don't get creative. All right. In lieu of looking at that budget, let's go ahead and move forward to the Board of Tax Appeals. And to give us a rundown on that, also, analyst Saylor Sinclair.
Yeah. So I'll be performing or doing the analysis for the Board of Tax Appeals, otherwise known as BOTA. The executive director is Jody Allen, and I believe she's there in person.
She is indeed.
Oh, excellent. She will stand for questions at the end and also provide some testimony.
Very good.
So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown on the Board of Tax Appeals on page 1. The mission of the State Board of Tax Appeals, or BOTA, is to resolve disputes between taxpayers and taxing authorities promptly and impartially, and to help maintain public confidence in the state and local tax system. The board is committed to fulfilling its mission in a highly effective and professional manner through all available technology and human resources to best meet the needs of the public. BOTA, or the Board of Tax Appeals, has 2 divisions. It has the regular division and the small claims and expedited hearing division. The first division, the regular division, deals with issues upon tax grievances, applications for exemptions for property tax, mortgages for registration protests, no-fund warrant requests, and appeals from school districts with declining enrollment, with the small claims being dealing with divisions. They may hear Department of Revenue, Division of Taxation, in the amount of controversy that does not exceed $15,000. That's kind of a little bit of a general overview. I'm sure Jody could give you a much more detailed and more nuanced overview, however, again, this budget, the first 7 pages or so are an overview of the budget. I can go in greater detail about them. If not, I would like to start on page 7. Is that all right?
Go ahead.
All right. So page 7, FY 2021, adjustments to the approved state general fund budget. The legislature approved in FY 2020 a budget of $807,323 for the Board of Tax Appeals. There were several adjustments to get from that number to the end number of $804,259. There was an increase of $117 based on reappropriation from FY 2020 funding that was not spent and then thus shifted to FY 2021. There was an increase of $2,247 based on the reimbursement of state general funds for COVID-related expenditures and reimbursements from the Coronavirus Relief Fund as appropriated by the State Finance Council on June 16th. There was also a decrease of $5,428 as a result of the governor's July 1st, 2020 state general fund allotment. And with those, the $807,000 becomes that $804,259, which is the amount reflected in the table below as the currently approved FY 2021 state general fund amount. Continuing on page 7, the agency requested a revised estimate of $1.9 million, including $802,012 from the state general fund in FY 2021. The reduction is due to the reimbursement of the state general fund from the Coronavirus Relief Fund to the submission of the agency budget. The agency also shifted expenditures from contractual services for contract hearing officers to salary and wages. The agency requested 16 FTE positions, which is the same as 2021 approved amount. Turning to page 8, details those major category of expenditures or salary and wages. They requested $1.6 million. This was an increase of $13,000 and a state general fund decrease of $106,082. The increase is due to higher expenditures on salary and wages, or on salaries and group health insurance. Moving to contractual services, the agency requested $340,000, which is an all funds decrease of $13,372, and a state general fund increase of $103,835 above the approved amount. The decrease is due to decrease in travel and professional service fees for contracting hearing officers. The agency states that the board was unable to use contracted hearing officers from March 2020 through 2021 of January due to the coronavirus pandemic. The decreases were partially offset by increases in increased expenditures for communication. There was, in commodities, the agency requested $10,370, which is a decrease of $2,035, all from the special revenue fund. The decrease was due to decreased expenditures for computer system parts and gasoline. In capital outlay, the agency requested $8,700. The expenditures in this category were for replacement of computers. The agency did shift some expenditures originally intended for office furniture, and they moved that towards computer system purchases. The governor recommended a revised estimate of $1.7 million, including $576,235 all SGF. The recommendation is a decrease of $225,777. The decrease is due to the elimination of the application developer position. So it would be elimination of one FTE position and eliminating 7 months of funding for 2 vacant BOTA member positions. These decreases are partially offset by the addition of $37,292 from the state general fund for additional IT services performed by OTIS that were originally performed by the eliminated application developer position. I can stand for questions at this moment.
moving parts on this one.
All right, so continuing on 8,
One moment, one moment. I think there might be a question or two. One of them that it kind of stands out to me here is that in the field of contractual services, I get that travel was reduced. It was reduced for everyone. I get that. I'm not sure I'm following where $13,000 of travel was eliminated and replaced with $103,000 of communication. That would probably be better for the director here, I think.
Yes, Mr. Chairperson, I might defer to Jody on that one.
All righty, and Jody, I'll give you a moment to testify just as soon as we go through the budget first, okay? All right.
Mr. Chairperson, are there any other questions?
Committee, do we have any questions yet? Okay, seeing none. Yep, let's go ahead.
All right. So continuing on page 8, the governor's allotment. There was an allotment totaling $5,428. This continues on page 9. The Capers and Death and Disability Moratorium. The governor allotment deletes that $5,278 all SGF. In FY 2021 for a moratorium on the Capers Death and Disability contributions. The Coronavirus Fund exchange, the governor's July allotment deletes 150 all SGF to exchange those funds for coronavirus relief funds, or the CRF reimbursement received by the agency in FY 2021. That wraps up FY 2021. I can stand for questions on there. If not, I will continue on FY 2022.
Probably good to continue.
All right. So FY 2022 budget year, the agency requested 1.9 million, including 808,457 SGF. The request is an increase of $29,647 and an SGF increase of $6,445. The increases are due to increased Capers rates, professional service fees for contract hearing officers and travels. And again, the agency requests 16 FTE positions, which was the same as 2021. The major categories are provided below. On page 9, at the very bottom of page 9, salary and wages, there was an increase of $14,298. This was an increase of $5,411 in the SGF. The increase was due to increased rates for group health insurance and state employee retirement. Turning to page 10, the agency requested $356,486 in contractual services. This was an increase of $16,149 and an SGF increase of $1,034. The increase is due to professional service fees for contracted hearing officers. The agency states that the board was unable to use contracted hearing officers from March 2020 through January 2021 due to the coronavirus pandemic. The agency restored the $4,000 reduction in FY 2021 for reimbursement of travel. Continuing to commodities, the agency requested $9,270, which was a decrease of $1,110, all from the special revenue fund. The decreases are in processing supplies, stationery supplies. The agency states that the decrease in stationery and processing supplies is due to funding shortages and the utilization of printers with more efficient toner usage. The agency requested $9,000 in capital outlay. That was an increase of $300, all from the special revenue fund. The increase is due to increased expenditures for replacing 2 scanners, $4,500 per scanner, that were purchased back in 2010. In FY 2022, the governor recommended 1.9 million, including 660,411 in all SGF. This recommendation was an all funds decrease of $40,406. The decrease is due to the elimination of that application developer position and the reduction of salary and wages expenditures. The governor's recommendation also includes the following adjustments to the agency's FY 2022 requests. The governor recommended deleting 100,000 all SGF and add the same 100,000 from the BOTA filing fee, or to the BOTA filing fee for FY 2022. In addition, she's recommended adding $40,800 from the SGF to fund additional IT servicing or consulting services for FY 2022. I can stand for questions.
To make sure I understand this correctly, we're decreasing funds by $40,000.46 by eliminating the application developer position, but then adding $40,800 for IT consulting.
Yes, Mr. Chairperson, that is essentially what the budget is doing, is getting rid of that application or developer fee position, that one FTE, and allocating what that position would do to OTIS instead.
Okay. Let's go on to are there any questions from the committee? I do have some question as to the efficiency of that, if it costs us $800 more to take it out of shop, but such is the nature of state government. Going ahead and looking at the reduced resources for 2022.
Yes, at the bottom of page 10, FY22 reduced resources, the governor requested that specific agencies with state general funds, which is BOTA, provide a reduced resource budget of 10% for FY 2022. You can kind of see provides a graph and table below what I'll be talking about. Moving to page 11, the agency submitted this reduced resource package totaling a reduction of $80,846 for FY 2022. To achieve this target, the agency would need to eliminate small claims hearing officer positions, a senior administrative assistant position, and contractual service payments for Westlaw, the online legal research tool. The agency believes that these reductions will have a detrimental effect on their ability to provide services across the state. Continuing on page 11, the governor recommended a reduced resource package totaling a decrease of $40,406 for FY 2022. The decrease is due to the elimination of the application developer position and the reduction of salary and wages expenditures. The governor recommendation includes that increase of $40,800 all SGF to fund that additional IT service or consulting services. I can stand for questions on that.
Am I understanding correctly? I'm trying to digest the table here.
Yeah.
That the governor did not recommend the agency's reduced resources recommendation?
Mr. Chairperson, yes and no.
Sad to hear that.
How she got to that reduced number is essentially removing that one position, that the application developer position, and allocating that 40,000 to OITS instead. So that's why we see that decrease of 40,000 and then an additional addition for that 40,000.
An increasing shrinkage.
Yes.
That's where the eliminating the small claims hearing officer positions and senior administrative assistant position, that's where that comes in that shrinkage?
Yes, Mr. Chairperson.
Okay, so those are currently not filled positions.
I would have to defer to Jody if they are currently filled or not. I do not know.
All right, we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. Other questions from the committee? Got them stumped. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Do we have 2023 here? No, we're not doing that, are we? Very good.
No. Moving to page 14, I think this is a very helpful table to kind of visualize BOTA's current fees and licensure fees. And moving to page 15, it just again gives a more visualized description of the governor's FY 2022 recommendation. I can stay any questions at this point. If not, that concludes my budget analysis on BODA.
Again, we see the case of the rapidly falling fee fund going from a full year's operating expenses to about 4 months by 2022. Questions for the analyst? Yes, Representative Wagner.
Now the director of the BOTA is here. Okay, so we can ask her a question.
She's going to testify then. Absolutely. All right, I think you're off the hook for a minute. Oh, wait, sorry.
All right.
No, you're not. Okay, Representative Wagner.
Okay, on page 11, on the 2022 budget of the agency, it says they would need to eliminate a small claims hearing officer position, a senior administrative assistant position, and such. My question is, so why doesn't their full-time equivalent drop from 16 down to 14? I mean, that looks like 2 positions being eliminated.
Representative, this is just reduced resources. These reduced resources do not reflect in the other parts of the budget analysis.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Saylor. Jody Allen is here from the Board of Tax Appeals. Sure, come on up. We have a spotlight all set up for you. You wouldn't want to waste that. Welcome to committee. Sorry, with that mic, you do have to get real close to it, it seems like. I'm wave if you guys can hear Jody when she starts to talk. Okay, there you go.
Right.
Perfect.
I will attempt to answer all questions. I do not have the appropriate paperwork in front of me, one that all of you are referring to, so I might ask several questions, trying to understand. But as far as my testimony, the analysts hit most of it. I just wanted to point out several things. We're funded primarily from the State General Fund and the board's filing fee fund, which is fees collected from applicants that are filed with the board. We are presently about 56% filing fee, 40-some% state general fund. In fact, in this fiscal year, we're allocated $804,000, and through the reductions, we got down to $576,000 state general fund. That reduction consisted of, and there was some confusion here about the IT position and OIT. Touch on it. The reduction consisted of a elimination of an IT position, which is around $72,000, and contracting with OITS and a server storage center to take over all our IT needs, security, and everything that. And that runs about $37,000 to $40,000. So ultimately, there is a savings each year of about $35,000 taking this route. The other big reduction was mentioned by our analysts, and it was the removing funding for the 2 board members because it's been vacant from July through January. So that was a very easy one to do. And then in fiscal year 22, there was a small reduction in our state general fund. The board, again, eliminated the IT position, and using IT has saved about 40,000. In the process of the appeal, there was 200,000 removed from our state general fund and required the board to use their filing fee fund. During the appeal process, it was recommended to swap back in 100,000 to the state general fund, just have the board responsible for 100. This kind of gets at our filing fee situation. The whole concept of doing that is our filing fee is slowly being depleted. I think by the end of this fiscal year 22, we'll have 40,000 or something. I have it written down here, 422,000. And we're spending allocated anywhere about $1 million something each year. So though we collect fees through the year, 420, we could still survive until fiscal year 2025 and or fiscal year 2026. That's the year when what we bring in revenue is under what our allocation is. So the concept of putting 100,000 back in the state general fund is just to slow down the process of our depletion. Our filing fees were on target to about 2014. And during that year, and rightly so, but the legislature removed filing fees for the single-family residentials, not-for-profits under 100,000, and all municipalities and government entities that file. Example then is we went from 1.3 million in fiscal year 13 in filing fees down to 800 and some by fiscal year 2016. So it was a direct hit. We've continually tried to spend less each fiscal year by any means we can find to keep that filing fee up. And when you look at it, our filing fee limitation, we always come in lower than what they gave us. As far as the reduced resource, this was my mistake. We have very small margin to play with. We're 80% filing fee, 16% rent, you have no control. So in our discussions in our office, we thought, well, we could go with getting rid of Westlaw, which is the research tool for our attorneys, an online research system. And they could go back and through old cases and use the libraries to find the necessary information. And that would be very time consuming. And to get rid of one field position, an administrative assistant, because we only have 3 board members, 3 attorneys, and that isn't really an option. That would put us in an awkward situation. I expressed it in communicating with budget because we had a 30% increase in small claims filings this year. With that increase, the sign shows, past history has shown, we'll see an increase in regular division. So removing a staff person wasn't practical. Working with budget, and then their recommendations were much more logical. I didn't have the knowledge to know. I was so into keeping that IT position because I needed that funding for ITS. You know, we just could not, I mean, that's how we survive technology. And I didn't think it out clearly. So their recommendation was much more efficient than mine. The board currently with COVID has had a strange year. We had a 30% increase in small claims. By statute, we're required to have them scheduled and heard 60 days from the date we received them. And when we were using no contracted hearing officers due to COVID, and it was 2-part for that reason. The taxpayer has an option for an in-person hearing. And we rely on public libraries and other entities that do not charge a fee for rental to hold those in. Those were completely shut down. So that threw that up. Ones in the past have requested a telephone hearing. It's always been done by our attorneys in our office. They have the computer system, they have everything. Our contracted hearing officers aren't a position. They're individuals that sign up to do hearings. We schedule them as needed across Kansas to save on mileage and travel time because we can't do all the hearings in-house. An example this year was we were finishing up our small claims hearings in December. Usually they're finished by the end of August. We were booked every day. It just isn't enough hours in the day to get all the hearings. And our contracted hearing officers, not only the problem with finding a place, they too did not want to travel across the state during the pandemic. So we're hoping this year things let up and we can get back on track. As far as the regular division, it's been a crazy year. We have about 3,000 cases a year. Just simple math can tell you scheduling 3,000 hearings. Residential is a half hour to an hour. Small commercials, 2 to 4 hours. And then you have the bigger commercials that can be 1 or 2 day or 4 days. So our schedule is always booked. Even being booked throughout 5 days a week, 9 to 4, the last hearing. We make it because there's stipulations and dismissals filed by the this coming year, because of COVID, reduction in our staff made no sense. Somehow we need to work in a lot of hearings with not much time. Once we get a third board member, which one is in front of this taxation committee this next week, we could break up and do regular division hearings a little tighter because we could two's a quorum, but we could have 2 in one hearing, stagger them where 2 can do the next, and just kind of keep staggering. But we hope to get moving forward on it. So that's why I wholeheartedly support the budget suggestion of keeping our administrative assistant, and also our contract hearing filing. Sums up. Now, there seems you have a lot of questions, so I'll start taking them.
Sure. Well, first, I guess we ought to, you did answer several of them that I had in my head. There are a couple more that I do have, but first, I think probably we ought to discuss that reduced resources package. You're saying that the governor's rec is more in keeping with, will do more to keep the trains running than the agency request. Okay. Now, what do you, with the governor's recommendation, what impacts do you see that allotment having on the agency? Will it still work is really my question.
Yeah, we can make that because we have the funding for our IT, which keeps us moving. Everything's done through our case management system.
And you said, what was that, West Bank, West Fork? What was that, Westland? What was that?
West Law.
West Law, okay, there you go. The West Law, that's still left out or that's still included?
It's left out with her proposal. So our attorneys will have access.
Provided they will have access,
They will
okay.
have access.
All right.
It in there.
Okay, that was the other thing I wanted to check. Now, looking at the 21, this is really just kind of an explanation, I think, in my mind. Travel's down, I got it. Travel was down for everybody. But we replaced $13,000 in travel with $103,000 in communication fees increase. How did that happen? that look like?
This year,
Sorry?
in this fiscal year?
Yes, this I think was, yeah, this was 21. The agency requests 340,000, which is an all funds decrease of 13,372, an SGF increase of 103,835. The decrease is primarily attributable to travel and decreased professional service fees. The agency states that the board was unable to use contracted hearing officers, but then it says the decreases were partially offset by increased expenditures for communication. So I'm trying to figure out now that 103,000, 104,000 may be more than just communication, but it's not spelled out for me here.
Here's how it's spelled out, and I would need to look what else it includes. But I can tell you the reason there was an increase, and it isn't near communication to 103,000. So I would need to check that out.
I didn't suspect it.
But there was an increase in communication because without doing small claims hearings, we depended completely on audio. So there was an increase in that. Expenses, we set up for our attorneys and got them better phones so they can hold conference calls while they're teleworking, which they are quite expensive because we need to have at least 5 or 6 online. But I can't, it doesn't, it's not 100. And I will look it up.
Those are awesome phones.
Yeah, they would be, wouldn't they? I will look it up and I will email all of you and tell you exactly what all that includes.
Excellent, I appreciate that. Other underlines, but while I'm digging, yes, Representative Arnberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have a quick question. I need to step out to go to another committee for testimony on Lorna State Hospital. I'll be right back. But I have a question. I was looking through your budget from 2013, where we talk about the FTEs, to now on page 5. In 2013, you started off with 18, and then in 2022, the governor's rec is 15. I'm just curious, are you guys able to function with 3 less employees? And I mean, I think that with being a small agency, a 3-member decrease is.
It's been an interesting process, and it's hard to believe in 2001, we had about 45. So we've been on the downhill of employees. When we got our new case management system in 2008, that able to reduce employee fees. We never laid anyone off. What we would do is when they retired or resigned, we did not fill the position. Some of it was because due to budget cuts, we had the vacant position, and our way of handling it, since we don't have a lot of discrepancy, is we would just not fill that vacant position and zero it out. But we are at, our employees work. I mean, it's amazing.
Especially.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I can't say enough good. It's a madhouse when you have 9,000 cases a year, and a total right now of 13 total staff, aside from board members, of 12. It's amazing what we have found ways to get out.
And this has nothing to do with your budget. Well, indirectly, I guess it does. But what do you attribute the drastic increase in cases to?
You know, and this is a layman. I'm not an analyst. I attribute it to people are frustrated with paying their taxes, and overwhelmed.
I have heard that once or twice.
I think you guys may all have heard it, and it is heartbreaking when you get these calls. You have people that have lived in, say, Mission Hills for 50 years. The house is paid for. Mission Hills is the place that they can't even pay their taxes. It's just taxes are high, and I think there was an increase too. People are angry. This year. So I'm hoping
a good year for
that's
that.
part of it is people were just angry this year, and every little thing pushed them over.
the day drinking really contributed to that, I think.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm hoping there's a little downhill trend, but I can tell you that taxes payers, both commercial and residential, are very frustrated. So I think there will always be an increase for a while. I know that all of you are working on options, but it's just a
Senator Wagner.
Thank you for coming. You said you had 16 full-time equivalent, but you only have 13 employees. So you have some unfilled positions?
We have the IT position that's unfilled, and then I was referring to the 2 board member positions unfilled.
Okay. Board members aren't paid. They're not on the payroll, are they?
Oh, my goodness, yes, they're on the
Oh,
payroll.
they are. Oh, okay.
They're probably 40% of our payroll, so.
So if you can break down for me, I'm just curious with your department. So like, what are the positions? You have how many secretaries, how many attorneys, how many?
No problem. We have 3 board members and a chief hearing officer is appointed by the governor.
Okay.
And by statute, their salary is equivalent of a district court judge. So you have an idea. There, we have myself, the executive director, 3 attorneys, one of them's the general counsel and 2 attorneys.
Okay.
And then we have no IT person, right? And the rest is administrative support staff, for the bulk of handling, scheduling, docketing. We're paperless, scanning.
There's like 5 of
Still
them, 8 of them? How many administrators?
You're gonna make me add.
They're just clerical staff, clerical
Yes,
secretary.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
all in the cleric, the administrative assistance area.
And then again, I'm still having a hard time following just exactly what's going on, where, your actual, get expenditures, are just under, 1.783 million. And then this question as to, both you and the governor get up in the same 1.948 million. Okay, I'm losing it, but you're talking about cuts, but then that seems like it's going up. And so I'm not,
Sorry.
okay, yeah, but that's my question.
I'll help a little on that.
Yeah.
Our vacant board member positions actually started in 2020.
Okay.
March. First left and the other 2 left in April. So there's quite a few months in there of the board salary. That's vacant. Shows on our actual expenditures.
Then one other question.
Sure.
On the performance measures, clearance rate of cases, like in actual in fiscal year 2020, it was like 68% versus typically 85, 95, 100%. Is that all because of COVID then? Is that because you were shut down, everything kind of went to pot as far as clearing out cases?
Yes. With COVID, which in March we were shut down.
Okay.
We got back in April, May. We did a lot of plexiglass and got the hearing room set up, reception area to accommodate. Taxpayers did not want it. So we were very limited on how many hearings were held. We're in the process of setting up Zoom hearings, and it's been ongoing. Because the regular division is more set up like a court hearing. Provide, submit evidence, logged in. And so we had to figure out a lot of logistics. TS, the right equipment, and we're very close to offering it. But some are saying they want in-person. I thought I didn't feel comfortable saying no. That's their fear. I expected.
questions for the?
Jody, thank you for all your work in this. I know that it's been pretty complicated, and I know that you have a one-on-one situation with many taxpayers, and a lot of times you'll feel the brunt of exactly what's going on. So we appreciate the work, and hopefully you're going to get your hires in, and you're going to be able to move full steam ahead, which I think you're going to.
And the other seven position knowing. Someone come up and told me their story, I would just say, I'm so sorry. Yes, we're reducing that. So it's just a very trying time, and I think it's all going to work out. The pandemic just made it more complicated. Okay, and I will email the whole committee about the communications increase, what it entailed.
Send the email to Kathy.
Okay,
She
that's
will-
what I'll do. That's what I'll do then. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope your session this year.
I didn't ask the Hollywood Squares if there were questions up there. Or would you prefer the Brady Bunch? Both of them work for me. I can see it either way there. All right. All right, committee, let's turn our attention to the optometry board. And to give us a brief rundown of the optometry board, look at this. We have analyst Saylor Sinclair. Analyst Sinclair, take it away.
Mr. Chairperson, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. All right. So I'll be providing the budget analysis for the Board of Optometry. The executive officer, Jan Murray, should be appearing virtually. She is. Wonderful. She will stand. Yep, her little square, I think, is up there. She will stand for questions and provide some testimony at the conclusion of my analysis. Just to give a brief rundown of the Board of Optometry, the Kansas Board of Examiners in Optometry was created in 1909 to administer and enforce the provisions of the Optometry Act. So the highest quality of eye care is provided to the citizens of Kansas. The board is responsible for evaluating the qualifications of new applicants for the practice of optometry through examinations and review of qualifications. Again, the first 7 pages provide an overview of the agency budget. I can go into greater detail about these pages. If not, I would like to start on page 9.
Actually, and this might be an agency question, I'm not sure, but as I look at the performance measures, I see numbers that are all over the board. Now, 18, that's an actual. There were 49 consumer complaints, which is 5 times that of the out years. I have a feeling that's probably a better agency question. But when I look at the governor's rec for the number of license renewals, again, it bounces around 378, 350, 330, 400, 350.
I'll let Representative, or Mr. Chairperson, I'll let Jan talk about the licensure renewals. However, the first row, the number of consumer complaints, if you go at the very bottom, past the little asterisk of the governor's office, there's a staff note that says the 49 consumer complaints in FY 2018 is considered an outlier because 47 of those complaints were made against one practitioner.
Once again, I failed to read the fine print. Okay, so we got one dirty dog there. Okay, very good.
Starting on page 9, FY 2021, the agency requested $166,597, all from the optometry fee fund. The overall estimate was unchanged from the amount approved by the 2020 legislature. There were some budget changes in the categories of expenditures. In salary and wages, there was a decrease of $446 below the approved amount. The decrease is due to less employer contributions to state employee retirement plans. In contractual services, there was an increase of 446, and this increase was due to other contractual services. In commodities, the agency estimated 2,510 for commodities. This was the same as approved by the 2020 legislature. The governor concurs with the agency's FY 2021 revised estimate. I can stand on questions for FY 2021.
Seeing. Let's proceed.
All right, turning to page 10, FY 2022, the agency requested $702,999. This was an increase of $5,502. The increase was due to the request to fund an additional 1 FTE position, which was the same. The increase was due to increases in salary, wages, contractual services, and commodities. The agency requests 1 FTE, which was the same in number as FY 2021. The increase in salaries and wages was 714. The increase was due to employer contributions to group health insurance and public employee retirement. On page 11, the increase in contractual services was 4,788. The increase was due to phone, internet, OITS fees, and computer uses. Commodities requests, there was a request for 2,510, which was the same in 2021. The governor concurs with the 2022 request. I can stand for questions on FY 2022.
An increase of $4,800 for a one-person agency seems excessive.
Again, I might defer that to Jan as
Yep,
to
I-
the contractual services increase.
Very good. All right, then, let's continue.
Continuing on page 11 and 12, just FY 2023, the agency requested $174,618. This was an increase of $2,519. They request 1 FTE position. The agency requested $76,407 in salary and wages. This was an increase of $1,703. This increase was due to employer contributions to state employee retirement and health group insurance. There was an increase of $816 in contractual services. This was due to OITS fee expenditures, and there was a request for 2,510 in commodities. This was no change from the agency's FY 2022 request. The governor concurs with the agency's FY 2023 request. I can stand for questions on that.
I think this will still go to the agency, but I'm seeing 816 on top of 4788. What kind of data service this is? $600 increase, 2 years. Do we have questions for the analyst? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Saylor.
All right, turning to page 14, details the funding sources for the optometry fee fund. Again, this agency is funded 100% by the optometry fee fund. There are no state general fund. Turning to page 16, 16 details the governor's FY 2022 recommendation. It's just a good visual aid. And on 17, showcases the administration's FTE positions by program through years FY 2020 through 2023.
Just table together for yourself, did you? This is a tough one.
I'll take that as a compliment, Mr. Chairperson. But at this time, this concludes my presentation on the Board of Optometry. If there's any questions at this moment, I can take them. If not, I will hand this over to Jan Murray.
Representative Wagner.
Okay, on page 14, the optometry fee fund analysis. It says that 90% of the revenues are retained by the agency and 10% go to the state general fund. Does that show up? I mean, so when we see these revenue figures, that is the 90% of what actually came in, correct?
Representative Wagner, that is correct. The 90% is the fee fund, but that 10% goes to HR services performed by the Department of Administration.
All right, now then I have one other question.
Yes.
There's mention in your major issues from prior years about some like optometry litigation fund. Is there still such a fund? I mean, is that at all, I don't see anything mentioned about it, but is there some other fund that this agency is kind of sitting on?
I'll defer to Jan on that at this moment, because I do have an answer, but I need to double check on it. If she can answer it before I can, I'll follow up with you. However, at this moment, I believe that I'll follow up with you.
Okay, thank you.
Questions for the analyst? Seeing none. Jan Murray, we have you here in committee, sort of.
Sort of. Can you hear me okay?
I can indeed.
Okay. So we do have a litigation fund. We got it like in 2012, and it is just for if my legal expenses go over. I think I budget $25,000 for legal expenses. If I go over that amount, then I can get into this legal or litigation fund. It is to be capped at $400,000, and I'm thinking right now it's got like $180,000 in it.
And if I can ask, okay. So it doesn't show up in your budget otherwise unless you had excessive legal fees. Is that what it is? Does it grow at all, or is it just static and then it's just decreasing as you have to tap into it?
It's pretty much static. If I got extra fee funds in a division of budget and the governor will let me, I will slide some of my fee fund over into it, but I can't put more than $400,000 into it. And for a while, I was putting like $50,000 a year into it for a while, and then some other stuff happened, and I haven't been able to have the funds to transfer over into it.
The current balance is about 180, you thought?
Yep.
Okay.
And I can give you an exact amount, or I can email you an exact amount if you need it.
I wouldn't mind that, or if you have any history of it, like the last 5 years or something.
Like I said, we got it in 2012, and I really haven't touched it since then. It's just been, it was a way to put some of my excess fee funds into something that we could use later just in case. It's my rainy day fund.
There you go. Right. Ms. Murray, if you could tell me something about the OITS charges here. The ones in 2022 look pretty crazy, and then they go up from there.
Actually, they went up this year, but I decided it would be a lot easier to shift funds around and not ask for an increase for this year. This year, I think it went up like 7%, and the same was for next year. And I think in 2022, I did like an 8% increase, because they're consistently raising their rates.
Increase in $4,788. I mean, is that what OITS is charging? I mean, you're one person. What is it that they're doing for you exactly?
They maintain my website. They, the emails are, I have 6 email accounts, 5 for the board, 1 for me. And those are, if you give me a second, I could probably tell you real quick how much those are. So I can look those up. But those are fairly, where'd it go? I had it up and then I lost it. Yeah. for Office 365, it is $1,875 a year that I am paying just for Office 365, which is the email system and for 6 people. And then the other big increase that went up was for my website also went up. I was getting a small website that was, $300-400 a month, and now it's like closer to $600.
Is it interactive by any chance? Sorry. No, I was going back to a previous budget. We heard about an interactive website that cost an arm and a leg approximately.
Yeah, well, yeah. And like I said, they've been, yeah. Actually, it went up. Total professional services went up $574 a year. And they, according to what this, and I'm looking at this little spreadsheet that OITS did for me, fees went up for this year 7.27%, and it went up for 2022 7.31% each year. Yeah.
Interesting. Fortunately, we'll be hearing the OITS budget, so we'll have some frank discussions there, I think. Okay, very good. Are there any other questions from the committee? Yes, Representative French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have any administrative staff at all, or are you doing all your own administrative work?
I am it. I am chief cook and bottle washer.
But that's fun.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
No, thank you very much for being here. Staff had provided a detailed breakdown of your budget, and so I have some particular questions. I am kind of impressed. Your rents, you apparently pay about $350 a month. So where are your offices? I mean, that's pretty cheap.
I'm in Lawrence, and there's a story behind where my office is. Up until like 2002, my position was done by the secretary of the board, did my position. And the secretary of the board at that time, I think was pregnant with twins, and she couldn't do as much as what she wanted to. And so she petitioned the governor, and they more or less got my position opened up. And so my office is actually right next door to her office. And so it's just, I'm in a office that I share with 2 other businesses. I'm with an insurance company and a hearing aid company. And so we split all the expenses. And like I said, my office is just one out of like 6 that are in this little area.
Okay, no, I'm impressed. Actually, I mean, just compared to other rents I've seen broken down. One of the questions is on in the 5250, the travel and subsistence, you were at $2,200 in fiscal year 2020, and then it jumped to $15,250 and basically $15,500 in following years. So why the big change, and what's the story behind that?
In 2020, we didn't get to go. We have a conference every year that's in June, and this year it was canceled. So there's where a lot of our money is, or why there's a difference. But usually it's somewhere. This year, if we get to go, if they have it, it's going to be in California. And usually for 5 of us to go, it's, you're talking airfare to California for 5 of us, plus the hotel room, which those run anywhere from like $300 a night.
So this isn't travel in the state of Kansas. This is mainly like conference expenses.
Right.
Something.
Yeah.
And
like I said, 2020 we didn't go anywhere, so that's why it was so low.
Okay. In 52600 fees other services went up from 16,600 up to 17,000. Then in 2021, and then in 2022 you're up to 20,000. Is that your OITS stuff, or what are fees? You have a fees professional services, which is pretty steady at about 28,500. And what exactly, is that legal fees or what is that?
What was the account again?
The one was 52600 fees, other services. That's been on the trajectory and actually was moving the needle is frankly what you were picking up, Mr. Chairman, in her contractual services going up. Your 52700, your fees, professional services are at 28.5 and are pretty steady, but I didn't know what fees would that be for?
Not quite seeing it on my spreadsheet. I know part of that too is we have a fingerprint fund.
Okay.
Also that it's more or less just a pass-through account that goes from, I get fees in for the fingerprints and then that goes directly to KBI. So it's just usually it has a zero balance.
Did you say
Other
earlier?
professional fees.
Is that, what's your attorney? You have like attorney on retainer or something or?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, it's an outside attorney and we get paid per hour that he actually does work for us. And so like I said, I budget 25 grand for him. So, the only time that I think I've ever hit it was back when we had some litigation actually going on. And I was very glad to have that litigation fund, which was, I think, 2012 or 2013. It was right after we got the litigation fund. That was the last time that I touched it. And I was very grateful to have it because I could not afford his bills without it.
So if you didn't have legal issues, your attorney fees would actually drop below 25,000? He just bills you by the hour? Okay.
Yeah, he just bills me by the hour. For whatever he does for me, that's what I get billed for.
All right. Thank you very much.
Further questions for Ms. Murray? Director Murray? Seeing none. All right, Jen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, committee. I think we have some homework. I believe we're going to be able to get some answers on the hearing instruments, folks, tomorrow or Monday, one of the two. But we'll get that set up. But I would urge you to pay strict attention, particularly to all the moving pieces on the Board of Tax Appeals. There's some there are a lot of moving parts there, and we've got to make sure that we approach that correctly. So, yes, I'm assigning homework. All right. Tomorrow we'll be hearing the judicial branch and the judicial council budgets. And so that's going to be a pretty action-packed day. There we'll have a number of testifiers for that. So stay sharp. Yes, Representative French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, I will not be able to be here tomorrow. I've already have to be in Leavenworth at 5, so I need to make sure I can attend by WebEx. So make sure I get something else. I do not want to miss this next day. It's going to be interesting.
It will be interesting. Absolutely.
The judges are asking for another 25% raise again, so.
There are some serious needs that we have to look at on.
You're absolutely right. So I definitely want to attend. Unfortunately, just can't be here in person.
All right. Well, I'll be watching for you on the Brady.
I'll be on the square, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Until that time, Representative Amix. Oh, he's just waving. Okay. All right. Very good. Wave at Tom. All right. Until that time, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.